Hey, working class audio listeners, fans, watchers. I'm here today because I wanted to present kind of a radical idea that I would love your feedback on. And before I tell you this radical idea, I want to set the stage a little bit. And I'm someone who has been at the world of audio for about 30 years at this point. And I think it was in 1998, I actually got my first Pro Tools rig. And prior to that, had been using Sound Designer. So I've been using Pro Tools and DAWs for a long time. I love them. I love that workflow. I love the flexibility, the editing power, the recallability, everything that we all love. I love that too. I've also developed some backup strategies that I think are pretty effective over the years. And, it's essentially a variation of the 3-2-1 thing, 3 copies, 2 local, 1 remote. I also happen to have a lot of friends in the audio restoration business, whose business it is to take analog tapes for the most part, some digital technology like ADATs and DATs, but mostly analog stuff. 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 2 inch tape, stereo mixes, multi-track mixes. Bring those back from the dead. Bring those back from either temperature controlled environments where they're in pristine condition, but also environments like basements that are flooded and the tape has developed mold and it's just crazy. All of these friends have these techniques that they use to recover the music that was on those tapes or conversations or whatever they happen to be. And what impresses me is their ability to recover this stuff in the most dire of circumstances years after the fact. And in some cases, we're talking decades. And it occurs to me that, and here it comes, here's the radical idea. Try not to roll your eyes too far in the back of your head. What I'm proposing is us all as a hive mind in the world of pro audio to consider archiving to analog tape. I know it's not that radical of an idea. If you think about it, people who record to analog tape, they already have the archive right there. So I don't think this is that radical of an idea, but it's a counterintuitive idea, I think, in the digital age. So imagine, if you will, let's talk through the workflow. How would that look? How would you function in your workflow with that? My thought is this. You do your digital workflow from beginning to the very end. And let's start with stereo mixes, since I mix Atmos and stereo. So when I'm done with a stereo mix, imagine if, I deliver the unmastered version of my mix to the mastering engineer, and that gets disseminated amongst all the stakeholders. But as I'm archiving in the 3-2-1 digital method that I do, in addition to that, imagine if I ran off archival copies of only the mixes used, not outtakes, but only the mixes used to 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch tape. And then imagine if I took the multi-track and spit that out to, I don't know, depends on how many tracks there are, 16 track 2 inch, 24 track 2 inch. And I know some of you are going to tell me, well, a lot of my tracks have 36, 100, 200 tracks. I think that there's a way to consolidate some of this. Otherwise, we're going to get back into the whole old school synchronizing 224 tracks, and that could be a little nutty. So if we could figure out a way to get all of that onto tape, and let me not leave out Atmos. Atmos mixes, let's say we just take the mix of a 714 or a 916 mix, and we blast that out onto, I don't know, 2 inch 16 or 2 inch 24, whatever you happen to have. And then we give that to the client. And you might say, well, what if in 80 years, what if there's no analog machines to play this stuff back on and we need to get it back? Well, that's going to be the case with any of this stuff. Who knows what kind of computing things we're going to have in 80 years. Same thing with analog tape. So we can't place our bets on what we think is not going to be there, because this is what we have now. So that's what we have to work with. This is the hand we've been dealt. We have digital technologies and we have analog technologies. So just imagine it. You're an indie band, and let's just say let's say you're not even you don't have an indie label. Let's just say you're an indie band. You do your record, and then you ask the mix engineer to, archive your stereo mix, Atmos mix if you got it, to analog tape, and then take the multi-tracks to another analog tape. And then you take that home and you take a hard drive home. And hopefully if they feel the need to take the responsibility to archive in other digital formats, they can do that. But your odds of being able to recover those analog tapes in many, many, many years to come, let's say you're in your 20s and you're indie band now, and when you're 65, hey, we got the band back together, or we're doing a retrospective box set or whatever. You might just be able to get those mixes off that analog tape if you can't get it off the hard drive. We all know hard drives fail. We know that. That's just a fact of life. So what if all the hard drives fail? What if you can't get it off the hard drives? What if there's no data backup tape? Because very few people these days are using data backup tapes, at least in the world of pro audio that I know. So analog to the rescue. So obviously this concept is going to have it's going to have its naysayers. I know that there's going to be a batch of you out there that are going to be like, dude, come on. I get it. That's why I'm pitching this to you. Give me your feedback. Tell me what you think. Clearly the machines that we use are critical in this. We don't want a machine that's got a lot of coloration. And doing a little research online and kind of, going back into the old brain cells, it seems that Studer and ATR might be the solutions. Potentially Otari, potentially. There's a lot of considerations here. There's cost of machines, and there's used machines, and there's the whole, you go on reverb.com and you look at all those tape machines out there, and it's a crapshoot. So if you can get a tech in front of a machine and you like my idea, and you start with like a 1/2-inch machine, go find a Studer or an ATR that you can afford and have a tech look at it, and you could start that way. Tape stock is one factor, of course, probably the most critical of factors. RTM, who's a French-based company, they are also in the US in terms of distribution. I believe they have a distribution center in Livonia, Michigan. So you can get RTM tape here. They own the rights, the intellectual property, I believe, to BASF tape, or BASF, however you say it. And then, of course, there's ATR tape, ATR magnetics. I've heard mixed reviews of tape stock that's out there, but I'm not working in analog, so I really don't know. I don't have any recent experience to draw on anymore, because when I was doing it, we were on Quantigy or Ampex 456 or 3M 996, as you can see on my wall on one of my clocks there, or a clock. So everybody think about this. Tell me if you think this is crazy. It just seems to make a lot of sense to me that if these archive friends of mine are able to perform such miracles, like, pulling music off these analog tapes that are so old, and in some cases stored in the most ridiculous of circumstances. And of course they can pull stuff off of tapes that have been stored properly, even in a moderately cool climate, up on a shelf. I think, there's going to be a high chance of success. So that's it. That's the pitch. Tell me what you think, honestly. Tell me if you think this is absolutely stone cold crazy and too costly. Poke holes in the theory. That's why I'm putting it out there, because it's a theory. It's an idea. Maybe some of you are doing that. Maybe I'm like late to the party and this is already happening. But to the best of my knowledge, in 2024, was it October 29th? I don't know if it's happening that way. And I'd love to figure out if it is. And if it is a viable thing, imagine if we all got on board and did that. Imagine what that would do to preservation of music for generations to come. It's a thought. Yeah. I mean, thinking about it now, I mean, maybe I should be putting working class audio episodes on 1/4-inch reels and storing those so that when I'm long dead and gone and people want to hear, one of my interviews with like, Chad Blake or Andrew Sheps or Vance Powell or Tony Maserati, they can hear those. They'll be recoverable and somebody can put them out there when they disappear off the internet at some point. Cause there's no guarantees it'll always be available. So that's my point. All right. Let me know what you think. Comments below. Like, subscribe, do all that YouTube business that people do. And let me know what you think. I think I'm onto something, but I could be wrong. I could be crazy. So later.